Hey everybody, I hope you're well, and I am back. And not only that, getting back into the game of really talking about some leftover behind the scenes items that created kind of a set of undone content. In other words, or AKA things I wanted to say. So, what I did in this instance regarding Scott Roeben and Damon Amindalara's interview was jot down the salient points I wanted to make concisely. I know they spent like 46 minutes talking about the issue, or most of it was really Scott kind of, sharing his homespun Las Vegas, old style Las Vegas takes, as I call them. um, well, I felt like it was really a good idea to introduce a dose of fiscal reality into this discussion and give you a real live picture of how stadium financing and ballpark financing, it's really the same thing, work, and how to think about this matter from that perspective, because you're not getting the truth. Okay, Scott, by his own admission to me, does not like the idea that Las Vegas is pursuing sports organizations for the purpose of economic development. He is an old style casino guy. But what Scott forgets is that the reason why Sheldon Adelson spent so much time trying to bring the Raiders to Las Vegas was that he believed that, first of all, it was a better way to draw people into Las Vegas to play slots on site. And it was a kind of a way to combat the internet age as the late great Sheldon Adelson saw it, where we are now in a place where casinos are just an hour's drive location from, well, where you live, or where I live, or where anybody else lives in the United States of America. 1 hour. All of that has conspired to take Las Vegas' competitive advantage away into casinos. And Scott somehow has either forgotten that or won't acknowledge it. But I really believe that part of his raison d'etre is he's representing some casino friends, some quite powerful, who object to this direction, and also a healthy part of the Las Vegas residency that longs for the old days. Particularly Las Vegas people long for the old days of the way Las Vegas used to do business, particularly a way that was less expensive, less hefty on the pocketbook, and therefore more fun for the visitor. Now Las Vegas is, well, different. So I get where Scott is coming from that perspective, but in terms of the stadium and the ballpark itself, he was absolutely 100% completely wrong. And again, he's on a finance mission to just try and discredit the A's ballpark in Las Vegas using his Vital Vegas platform. And he contends that the A's don't have any money, okay? Except his completely wrong chortling ignores the simple fact that, going all the way back to Howard Terminal days, like 2018, the Athletics have been working with Goldman Sachs to establish a new type of private placement financing process. And also, his take completely ignores that the Las Vegas Stadium Authority itself has a process that the Athletics have to go through in order to be able to have documents approved so that full financing can be released. Not that they can't do a groundbreaking when the date comes up. That's different. But in terms of really to get the entire stadium financing unlocked, the non-relocation agreement has to be signed, the development agreement has to be approved. among other things. So, uh, again, there's a national standard that Scott is either ignoring or I think really more probably isn't aware of. Okay. Again, he's trying to play the old school Las Vegas role. And he prefer the Las think as Las Vegas is the whole world, I think, sometimes rather than a place that attracts the whole world. There's a big difference, okay? Big difference. And this gets into a discussion of how stadiums and ballparks are financed. And so basically, I'm just establishing right here now a ground level place from which to understand how this happens and how to think about it, okay? How to think about how all this works. And so it's under one basically the Athletics have said that they only need 500 million from investors in their private placement setup of the total cost of roughly $2 billion. All right. So if you think about what's being proposed under one scenario, they have this is money they're going to have to pay back. That has a return on investments that is attractive to the people that they're going after worldwide. Okay. So let's say that they could pay $125 million annually back to those investors, which is not including interest in this instance, over those 4 years, right? And consider that the investor give back, that would be just 17.8% of the total revenue, assuming the total revenue is $700 million annually just out the gate. All right. So if they sustain that for 4 years, and they could possibly exceed it, then it's a great place for the super rich around the world to put their money. And super rich, including organizations like CalPERS, right? So it would even be enough room. Let's say if the ballpark brought in 400 million because the economy turned weak for some particular reason. The point is, the investors would definitely get their money back, and the A's would keep the rest of that money because the ballpark is producing it for the life of the ballpark, year after year after year, which comes decade after decade. All right. The idea is to produce the revenue to overcome the hurdle and realize the continued revenue return for the future after the investors are paid off. See, that's what's not talked about here. You're given this idea that they pay one amount of money, you get all these rich people put it in, and that's it. And that's not the way it works at all. You're talking about building a development that produces money for the cost of its financing and also to help finance the team itself year over year over year. That's what you're talking about. All right. That's what Scott misses. Okay. Uh, the Athletics have an exciting design concept, and it's a great place to realize investment returns. It's visible, it's iconic right next to the airport. It's going to be a huge, huge win for a number of people when it opens in 2028 or 2027. And so this gets to my point about Scott really not wanting to sweat the details behind financing. All right. So for Scott Roeben to say that the A's don't have the financing to show is to show he doesn't understand really how all this goes. It's a process. You have to have site control, design, you have to have lenders, you have to have investors, and you have to have a government all in place. And hey, there's a process to get all that too. The A's have done all of that. All of that. They just have to go through the steps of the document production and approval through the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. Also, 30 teams provide 30 opportunities for people who never traveled to Las Vegas before to see baseball. Or just one look at the success of the Raiders in Las Vegas. Just one look at that tells you all you need to know about how this overall financing mechanism will work in the Las Vegas context. It was going to be huge, folks, enormous, including the luxury suite aspect of it. All right. Think that it's a pipe dream is to just ignore the real world data out there that says it's not. One has to wonder if Scott was paying attention to the entire Las Vegas Stadium Authority process for the Oakland Raiders. It doesn't seem like he really was. I think, in fact, as I recall it, he was rather silent on the issue. He was on the sidelines, and it could very well be that his casino buddies who really for it were not interested in paying for somebody to oppose it, and they didn't need to finance him. He was way in the background. This is entirely different. He has put himself front and center, and he has a financing partner back behind him. And I say this, good for him. Okay. It'd be great if he just said, yo, yeah, so-and-so is representing me. I think it's Boyd Gaming anyway, but he doesn't let on that that's the case, even though he is financed. I will say this and take off from my statement. Anyone who can obtain financing for their media organization today, as tough as it is, I say bravo, 2 thumbs up. Okay. Just everybody has to get their money from some source. Just make absolutely certain that you're doing it in a way that, well, hey, says to other people, okay, here's where I'm getting it, or that you are financed, even if you don't want to disclose who it is. Because if you're a private organization, you do have that right. If you're a nonprofit, it's a different story, which is why I don't recommend that anyone take on a nonprofit news structure when in media, a nonprofit structure for news or reporting news media is what I meant to say. Okay. It's just fraught with a lot of peril, legal peril. But I digress. Okay. At any rate, for the money, all right, here's the thing, all right? The money to form the private placement bond issue I've talked about is there. It's there because you can get it from any source around the world. John Fisher mentioned Las Vegas investors as a kind of a wish, but the A's never said that the project was do or die if they couldn't find a Las Vegas investor. That was never the case, because the fact of the matter is that they're already attracting interest from investors around the world because of the nature of this type of investment in terms of its cost and its potential returns, plus the desire of people who have that super rich level of money to put it somewhere where they know they're going to get a solid and high return on their investment. And that's the new private placement environment that we're in. Okay, so I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's been the focus of the A's efforts going all the way back to Howard Terminal before realizing the city of Oakland didn't have the proper organizational management to really do the government's part in the partnership. So the A's, well, they did the smart thing. They said, you know what, we're going to go elsewhere because it's going to take us forever to get anything done here if we do it all. And a lot of people don't like to address that part of the problem, but that is an absolute sad fact. And then I can just say, look at the scoreboard of the city's current condition as proof of what I'm talking about. But I digress. Second, the current effort is to treat the Bally's Hotel and the ballpark, and I repeat this, I say it again, as one investment entity. You don't want the hotel over here looking like this and the ballpark over here looking like that, and you're asking an investor to put their money in both. They're going to say, that doesn't make any sense. What is it that you're having me put my money into? What does it look like? I don't get it. They're trying to sort all that out so that it makes a lot of sense to an investor when you say, hey, look, here's a sports resort. And they look at it and take one look at it and say, I get it. Ding, there's the money. Okay. So that's what the whole new design process is all about. All right. That's what they're trying to do. And again, it gets to my point. This is all about process. It's not about just spending the money and in building a stadium, as many people say. Well, why don't they just do it now? Well, it doesn't work that way. Besides, you also have to build it. Okay, you have to finish the drawings. Okay, and because of the new Bally's design, that is in a sense set the A's design back a bit because the two have to mesh. So all that's being worked out now. All right, and my advice to you is to watch the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meetings. read the documents at the website lvstadiumauthority.org. Fall in love with the process and stop trying to push it along. Look, I know everybody who does this is pissed off that the Athletics are leaving Oakland. But I remind you, the arguments that have been used against public money, it begs the question. Well, it was okay to use public money when the A's are going to stay in Oakland, right? And then no one batted an eyelash. Now all of a sudden it's like, work for a better Oakland. Work for an Oakland that works like it used to. That should be your central focus if you really care about the city of Oakland, all right? And so as for Scott, all right, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting paid to represent a client or anything like that, but I think he needs to really represent the financing part of it better. Otherwise, he does his investors a disservice and the rest of us too, and creates a lot of flotsam and jetsam out there and words and word salad that, in point of fact, isn't the right way to go. I believe Scott's a good guy on balance. So there you go. All right. There's my take. A lot of you have asked me to give my take. Here it is. Subscribe to Zenny62. And in the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. That ends the stream.